Big explosion, chaos, cars, flames, earthquakes, the sky falls on your face. If you don't like my attitude, quit talking to me. You're watching SOS. I am Staff Sergeant Badass. Welcome back. I might sound like a crazy loon, but I did a write-up on this thrift store yard sale bug out bag I did. Now, I didn't just do that for the bug out bag, okay? So don't get confused. I did that as an idea for you guys. Now, I get a lot of great feedback, and I love your comments. I really appreciate each and every one of you and your comments because it gives me so many more ideas. And what you say on my channel, I give to other people. It's not hoarding and staying on my little comment section, okay? I share this information with people. And I kind of want to go over some of that right now. I did a write-up in my discussion. If you go to my main page, I've got a discussion section there. You can jump in and talk anytime you want. I will reply. I get messages on it. If you say something, I'll say something. It's that simple. Okay? Unless you're mean, and then I probably won't say anything. I don't know. It just depends. But sometimes when people type stuff, it can be misconstrued to something else. You might think that I'm saying something hateful, or I might think you're saying something hateful. So it's kind of confusing sometimes when you're typing up stuff. Alright, so I did a write-up on the thrift store thing, and I looked at other ideas from other people. I didn't just collect my own info, and it's always good to use your own words when you're kind of looking at things. And this channel is there to help you, and I did this for my sanity and to help others. I want information that's good and going to help you. Let's get to the point. Alright, so I did this write-up. Now, driving around to yard sales, okay, it's unbelievable. The things that I was finding at the yard sale, I didn't have a lot of money, but there's a lot of things I would love to buy. And if you think about doomsday, end times, anything to do with, well, what would happen if there's an EMP? So, if EMP happened, look how catastrophic. We'd be back in the 1800s, right? We'd be back in the 1800s. Like, half the crap we have wouldn't even work. Well, probably just about all of it. So, and it, I've kind of, you can trigger other people into your little world, and you get them to think for a second, and you stop and tell them, look, discussion of like my truck, for example, led to now I've got my dad looking for something similar. I mean, you can, but he's going more towards like point systems and things like that for vehicles in an EMP scenario. That makes perfect sense, right? That makes perfect sense. Now, being able to rely on a vehicle and then switch out components that you may have stashed in a Faraday cage and then replacing components, that's always good. Now, it's salvage yard work, okay? This goes so far, man. It's ridiculous. If you don't have a lot of money, and this is something that I do, my wife lets me do it sometimes. She'll hang out with the kids when I go to a salvage yard, and I'll run around the salvage yard. I'll take the boy with me, and the boy loves running around the salvage yard with me. And we'll go and we'll scavenge through junk. And by junk, it's not junk. I mean, you could use so much stuff. I couldn't tell you how many uses there are for like power window motors and things like that that you can find in a salvage yard. Now, this is just going into things you find. Alright, say you go to a salvage yard, you go to a yard sale, you go to a thrift store. Clothes. Look at clothes. I mean, good. I mean, I did this write-up like when it comes to like sterling silver and stuff like that, or if you've got like there's different uses for so many different things. Stainless steel pots and pans and things like that. That was one of my first write-ups. And that was a surprising thing that I found, because I found my little bug out camper kit doodad. And then survival related references and books. I'm going back to my reference here because I want to make sure I'm giving the right information to you guys. Like survival books, this stuff is going to be needed. What if you don't have all these PDF files out there? If you haven't already printed them off and put them in a binder, then they're pretty much useless. if there was like an EMP or something along those lines. And there's a lot of talk about EMPs. Even scientists in, like, what was it, San Diego, California, just did some research, and they say by 2020 we were going to get hit hardcore. 2020, that's not very far away, people. We're, what, 2017 is going to be in just a few days. So there you go. You haven't got long. This is something for you to get prepared with, and I'm doing the same thing. Look, I don't just run my mouth on here and then not do these things, because this is just research I did for you guys. This is what I'm doing, and I wanted to see if you guys wanted to do the same thing. So that's why I'm telling you. But these survival-related references, not just that, medical books, all that stuff. And then when you get into, like, let's see, homeschooling supplies. This is another good one. Shit hits the fan scenario. What are you going to do for, like, teaching your kids? You may become your kid's teacher. You may be teaching them things, and I mean, you already do the basics, right? Like ABCs and 1, 2, 3s, right? You might have to go way further into that. Some of you may be teachers watching my show, and you're already in that whole world. A good grain meal would be nice. There's all kinds of equipment you'll find at these places. You have no idea. It's just crazy. You roll up into a place and you're like, wait a minute, what is that? Is that a welder? I could use a welder. See, I have a welder, but that's the thing. It's like, but for you, what if you don't have a welder? Can you weld? Have you tried it yet? I would totally, if you haven't tried welding, do it. And it's just like the reloading thing, reloading ammunition. There's so many things. You could build so many different things from welding and old junk and things like that. Next thing you know, you've got an off-the-grid house built entirely out of junk or something. You know, you could be that dude. Guy or gal, well, whoever you are. But like the tools from like stuff you would use as mechanical, like for example, a hurdy-gurdy. Is your power drill going to work? What if you've got a hurdy-gurdy? And a hurdy-gurdy, if you're familiar with it, it's a mechanical drill, right? So tools are important. Some of these tools are going to be complete. Well, actually, all these tools are going to be irreplaceable. If we had to go back to that 1800 type period, you're going to have blacksmiths again and things like that. I mean, it's just going to be a whole nother world. People are not ready for it, all right? But it's good if you go ahead and have the tools now to do that. Camping equipment is another great thing. If you're running around through these thrift stores and yard sales, people go camping like once, and then they take all their stuff, and then it sits on the shelf and it collects dust, and they decide to sell it. I've got two. I've got one propane, and I've got one of them that's kerosene, and they're both cooking stoves. I bought them each $1 a piece. That's a good deal. And you go to the store, it's like $35, $40. But I have two of them. I bought $1 a piece. And they're two different types. One's kerosene and one's propane. And this camping gear, you never know what you're going to find. And it's stuff you probably wanted, and you were going to go to the store and buy it, but you find it at the yard sale for $1 or 25 cents or 50 versus $10 or $5. You know what I mean? It's good. It's smart. It's smart. And don't spend a lot. I mean, spending too much on your preps, you end up with no money and you get very little done. And I mean, you could be far beyond a lot of this stuff just by hustling a little bit. You know what I mean? I guess this is kind of like hustling. You go from store to store, place to place, hustling a little bit. Good quality knives. That was another thing I thought was a great idea. I found the machete, and that was a high quality U.S. made, U.S. metal machete, and it's a great machete. And that's another thing that you could look for an axe or whatever, and all these hand tools, say for gardening and whatnot. It's good stuff to go out looking for. Winter wear, all right. Another thing, good clothing, boots, stuff like that. It probably hasn't been worn very much. Some people are probably getting rid of stuff. They've replaced it. It's always good to find that stuff in, like, the summer. Like now, basically, you would go and you'd probably find some good deals on some summer stuff, right? You probably wouldn't find any good deals on anything else. let's see, tools. Like I said, you can find good American-made stuff that's not made in China. And everybody knows the weaker metals, and the weaker metals, they don't hold up very good and they break. Battery-operated appliances, if you wanted them, it's something that you could probably store. I keep a lot of electronic stuff in containers, random electronics that I don't plan on using right now, but I keep it put away if I ever do need to go to and grab stuff. Food dehydrator is good to have. I got lucky and got one. Fishing equipment, you never know. You could probably find like tons of fishing equipment inside most places. I found rod and reels and things like that, some that needed work. And if you know anything about you're mechanically inclined at all, you could probably fix most of this stuff. Emergency supplies, flashlights and things like that, lanterns, kerosene lanterns, things like that. Like your lamp lanterns and things like that. I was finding so much of that stuff, but I already have some. I was considering getting more and just to get it, but I was trying to conserve my money and think, right, this is what I needed for, I was going out to try and build a bug out bag, but somebody else could go out and try to build something else. Sometimes I do these things. I go to thrift stores and I find weird items, and a lot of it's hand tools, stuff that you would use to make food, food preps and things like that. Tough kids clothing was another thing. I looked a lot because I have kids, and I looked a lot at the kids' clothes, and you'd be amazed the stuff. I need stuff like boots and things like that, and that's the things I was looking for. Canning supplies was another thing. Some people get into canning and they give up, right? I found a lot of canning supplies. I don't need it right now, but I know a lot of you probably want to get into canning and would love to can your own food, and all that stuff's there and it's super cheap. You could have saved a ton of money on it. I mean, a pressure cooker versus like going and buying a new pressure cooker and you spend like $10 on a new pressure cooker or an old pressure cooker, you know what I mean? And you could get like the heavy duty industrial pressure cookers with all the clamps and doodads, in which those are sick, right? Alright, let's see. And then we got the jars and all the other jazz. Manuals for kitchen and manuals for canning. There's different type of food organizations. The USDA and things like that. They put these manuals, these books out, and they're expensive. But you could be walking through yard sales and find one. It's not expensive. It could be a couple of bucks, you know. I was trying to score one. I was looking for different canning books to see if I could score one, but I didn't get lucky. But it would be good keeping your eye out for something like that. That stuff is worth its weight in gold, pretty much. Let's see. Cast iron cookware, always good to have. Cookbooks, like I said. Gardening tools, I already said that. First aid, medical supplies. Look, I found like so much medical supplies, and it was still in date and still good. I've got Sippy Cup with me. So Sippy Cup, usually when we see medical supplies and gear, that type of stuff, and books, medical books, she goes through it and sifts through it and tells me if it's good or not and what we should get and what we shouldn't get. So it's always handy to have somebody like that with you. If you don't, then if you're rocking the smartphone or something and you're rolling along through these things, smartphone it, Google search, check to see if it's good or not, and if you even need it. If you don't have somebody like Sippy Cup around to help investigate. Hunting supplies, and believe it or not, firearms. Alright? You can find camouflage materials and things like that. It's always good to collect the camouflage materials. You never know when you're going to need it. And just because they're old fatigues from the Army or Navy or wherever, all these different things, you never know. You could find some gear that's useful in cutting it up. Sewing is something to get into. I sew a lot of my own gear. I make a lot of my own gear because I can't afford $100 for a little pouch. Look, I'm not that guy. And I'm not one of these guys that has a lot of money. I don't have any money for this stuff. I have to pinch and pinch and pinch my pennies. Now, it's just like when I watch, like, it's kind of like I watch man, wouldn't it be nice to be one of those guys? You know, sometimes I watch YouTube channels from other people. They do like the battle boxes, and they do the tack packs and things like that. They get these mail subscriptions every month for like $50 to $150, and they say, well, I'm going to open this up. It's kind of sad. I start looking at it, and I'm like, I get like just a little bit aggravated, because I'm like, all right, let's look what all's in your box. It's like, who wants to go to the birthday party and watch somebody open all their presents? I don't. I don't care to see anybody open their presents, and I don't do that to you. I wouldn't want to get on here and be like, oh, look what I got. Oh, goody, oh, goody. You know, what's in the box? What's in the box? I'm not going to do that to you guys. And it's just kind of like, well, for the guy on the outside looking in, it's like me watching like MTV Cribs or something. I don't know how many of you hippies watch that, if I ever did. And I watched some sports star, rock star, whoever show me his robot that delivers beer. You know, his lid opens up and he gives him a beer. I mean, I would love to have things like that, but we can't afford it, right? So we go thrift storing. That's my tack pack for today. I came home with my tack pack, and I spent like $10 to build a thrift store bug out bag, and you could survive on that thing, and you know it. That would be epic. Anyway, so that's it. That's all I got for you guys. You're watching SOS. I am Staff Sergeant Badass. Enjoy your day. Plan your preps. Plan. Think ahead, and go do these things. Go adventure. I'm out.